Well, hello everybody, and thanks for tuning in again. This video is going to be about three images that I decided to go back and reprocess. Now, I shot these images probably about, maybe a year and a half ago. But as often happens, sometimes we process the images and we aren't quite happy with the end result. This particular outing was one of those particular instances. I decided to go back and look at these images from a fresh perspective and reprocess the images and hopefully get something that I like this time. Initially, I simply just wasn't happy with the results, and I think I've improved upon that this time. As I said, there are three images. I decided to convert these images to black and white, which I thought would be more appropriate for the particular style and setting that these particular images were taken in. So, without further ado, let's get right to it. All right, here we are with the very first image. Now, first of all, let me give you just a little bit of background information on the location that I'm in. This shot was taken in, Richmond, Virginia, and this is right along the James River. Now, this is a historic site. These train tracks and this particular area probably were developed in the early 1920s. So it's a historic area, and when I came out here, I thought that it could probably yield some pretty good images, just based on the look. All right, as you can see here, I'm standing underneath an underpass, and as you can see, the raw image, of course, is in color, and it's relatively dull. Now, if you look, you can see the sun is beginning to set just a little bit, and got a little sun star here. It's just basically clipping the top here. Now, I'm really liking the stone structures here. I thought this was pretty good. Now, what I did was here in Lightroom, I took the adjustment brush and I darkened this just a bit because the sun was shining directly on this particular area, and it was pretty bright, and I thought that would probably draw a lot of attention, or rather take a lot of attention away from the center, which is basically where I wanted your eyes to go in this particular image. Now, the sky is relatively bright, but that's not really a factor here. It was an overcast day, and you can just barely see the sun trying to peek through the clouds here. And what initially draws me to train tracks a lot of the time is the possibility of getting depth of field from the foreground going straight into the background. I decided to just stand off to the side and take this particular shot. Now, let me show you the finished processed image. All right, now here's the finished processed image. Now, as you can see, I really beefed up the contrast on the image. And as I said, on this image, I took the adjustment brush and I brought down the brightness on this particular side of the wall because it was really standing out, especially after it was converted to black and white. I brought the luminosity down just a bit in the sky so it wouldn't be too overpowering and your eyes would go directly to the sky so much. All right, I took the adjustment brush in Lightroom and I darkened the walls here, and even along here I decreased the exposure just a bit on the rocks as well as here. Now, I wanted the brighter area in the center, of course, to be right on the tracks, because I thought that was the main point of interest here, and it should basically just take your eyes straight into the background. And I think I accomplished that relatively well here, and I'm relatively happy with the shot. It certainly isn't one of the best images I've ever taken, but it's something I can live with. It's something I'm relatively happy with compared to the original image that I edited. All right, now let's head on to the second image. All right, now right across the street from where the last image was taken was a train trestle. So what I did was I went I actually went up on top of the trestle. It's probably about maybe a good 20 feet, above the ground at this point. And as you can see here, we still have some pretty good detail, even in the darker areas underneath the trestle. Now, I exposed for the sky, so that wouldn't clip too much, so I could bring back some degree of detail, even though it's an overcast day and you're not really seeing the structure of the clouds. You really don't want those areas to blow out. So exposing for the highlights accomplished that. Now, when I first approached this particular image, sometimes when you look at an image, or I shouldn't say an image, but a particular scene, the issue isn't whether or not you have an image. The issue is whether or not you can actually get an acceptable image out of what you're actually seeing. And that was the challenge here. Because on the exterior, you say, well, it's just a train trestle. What can you really do with that? Well, first of all, getting the image is the important part. And then the rest of the magic, of course, can happen in the post-processing. Now, I might add, on all of these shots that you're about to see, I used a Rokinon 8mm lens. And I believe I used the Nikon D7100 on this particular image, which is an APS-C crop sensor camera. So that gave me 12mm actually, with an 8mm lens, because it's a crop factor of 1.5 with Nikon cameras. So we're actually talking about 14mm here. And so we've got a nice wide shot here, and it doesn't seem too confined. All right, now let me show you the processed image. And the image was processed in Silver Effects. All right, now this is what I came up with. Now, the first thing, once I did that, it tended to open up the shadows quite a bit here. And so what I did was I took the adjustment brush in Lightroom and I just gently decreased the exposure on the sides here. I also took the adjustment brush and I increased the highlights that were actually on the tracks to draw your eye more into the center of the image. Now, if you look at the sky, you can see now you're actually being able to see some structure, some type of structure in the clouds. Even though it was a completely overcast day, a lot of the time there still is, the clouds do have some structure to them. And actually decreasing the exposure to the sky actually brought out some of the structure in the clouds. And sometimes when you're taking a certain image, when you get to the editing phase of it, you're not 100% sure as to what you're actually going to get. And I was hoping I would be able to get some structure, and I was able to here. So I think that added a halfway decent dimension to the image. All right, now the third and final image is probably my favorite image of the three. And this is the raw image of that particular shot. Now, as you can see, what I did here was I actually took a shot from a portrait orientation. I simply put the camera on its side and shot straight down. Now, with the 12mm lens, everything is pretty much in focus. Basically, the only thing I did was focus for about 1 meter in front of the camera, and the great depth of field that a lens like that gives you took care of the rest. And if you look here, there is some structure to the clouds here. If you look, you can see some variations in the brightness here and here. Now, to my surprise, after the image was processed, I could actually see the disk of the sun here, which isn't visible in this particular shot, oddly enough. And let me show you that image now. All right, now if you take a look at this, you can actually see a halo around the sun, and there is the disk right here. And you can really see the cloud structure in this particular image. Now, I never would have guessed that this type of detail would have materialized in post-processing. So sometimes you're completely surprised by what you're able to come up with. I think the key to this is is to expose everything properly, because had I blown out the sky, this would not have materialized at all. All right, as you can see, this is a very contrasty image, which I tend to like because I love black and white images that have drama. I love dramatic images, and what I did here to create even more contrast and drama was I used the adjustment brush once again in Lightroom, and I went along the tracks and I increased the brightness, the exposure, right on the tracks to really draw you into the image. And I think this gives a very nice visual perspective. And as I said, this is probably my favorite shot out of the bunch because of the contrast and because of the unexpected detail that I was able to get in the sky. All right, that's about all I have for this particular video. And I hope you've enjoyed these 3 images that I've presented to you. And as always, until next time.